So in this video, I'll go over a couple of questions I've been having about some general sketching and modeling tools and menus. So let's just start out with a simple sketch. So you'll notice that these lines are blue. Blue means they're not constrained. It just means they're not fully controlled. You can constrain them or control them using dimensions or also using relations, for example, horizontal, vertical, tangent, perpendicular, so forth. Let's see. So for example, this line here, if I want that to be vertical, it's easy to add. Just go up here, add a relation, click on the line, and you can see the options that I have here. I can make it horizontal or vertical or fixed. If I click on vertical, you'll see it'll correct it to a vertical line, and it'll put that little symbol on there. And notice these have the symbols for showing that it's horizontal. So that's one kind of a constraint. The others are dimensions. So as you dimension, that's another way to add a constraint. Notice everything's still blue. As far as dimensions, how they're oriented, it has to do with how you move your mouse. If you click, like this line's on an angle, if I click on this line, then it's going to make a dimension. It's called an aligned dimension. But if I move my mouse around, I can adjust it to a horizontal or a vertical dimension. If you click on the endpoints, same thing happens, right? Depends on the situation as to what you're looking for. Now this dimension doesn't make any sense because I've already got it over there. So if I wanted to put that on there, you've got an option here. I could dimension it like that, or I could put an angle on it. Now one thing you'll see is because I have these other three dimensions on there, if I try to put that dimension on there, it's going to give me an error because I already have that dimension, just because again these three dimensions create the situation where that can only be one dimension or one angle. Same thing if I try to put an angle call out on there, it's going to give me an error. I don't need that dimension. So the question is, why are these still blue? Because the software wants to know where this shape is in relation to the origin. Oh, also interesting, if you look at the bottom, you'll see it says underdefined. It means it's not fully defined. Okay, so all I need to do is dimension this to the origin. And if you had another feature, like let's say we had a hole in the part, what I would do is use that to locate and just put the hole at the origin. You don't have to do that. Notice these two have turned black because they're fully constrained. These two are still blue. I'm still missing something there. And now notice everything is black. So that's just, that means that it's fully constrained. And let's go ahead, since I talked about that, let's put a, let's put a hole in here. Making this up as I go. Now that's blue because I don't have the diameter on it yet. There we go. Okay, that's fully constrained. Now you don't have to have the sketch fully constrained, but it's a good idea because it tells you that you have handled all the dimensions and the part can only be one size. Now when you go to do an extrusion, whether it be a cut or a boss base, you can only extrude one thing at a time. So in this case, I have a hole in the part. That's not a big deal. What if what if my intention was to make this a boss that stuck out? I can't do that. Can't do it in one pass. I'd have to do a separate extrusion. Right, so I have to do that, and then I have to come in and make a new sketch, and then create that boss that would be a solid body, right? So you can only extrude one thing at a time. You have two things, like I have two sketches sort of. If you come down here where it says selected contours and click on that, then I can click on that circle and it'll identify that, make it separate. It's separated so I can get my sketch looking the way it's. Now if you want to edit the sketch, just go over here. We only have one extrusion, but if you hold your cursor over there, you'll see it'll highlight. If you click on that little arrow, there's your sketch. If you right click that and click on edit sketch, now I can change it. For example, if I wanted to make that 1 inch, finish it, it'll edit. If I wanted to edit the extrusion, right click on the extrusion rather than the sketch and say edit feature. And now let's say this was supposed to be 1.5. I can change the extrusion. So again, just by right clicking those, I can edit them. Let's see, one thing that you may want to do is, especially when you're building assemblies, is all your models are going to show up as this gray. When you start to build assemblies, it's nice to have different colors. And that's for a presentation or something, that's great. Typically, we don't worry about that too much. It's really just a visual tool. But if you wanted to make this look different, and if you were looking for mass properties, for example, I wanted to know the density of this or center of gravity, then I can actually select a material instead of this just being a generic gray thing. If you come over here where it says material, it's not specified. If you come up here and right click and see where it says material, now you can edit it. Now there's some, these are the ones I've used recently, you can change it, and all this is, now it says see where it says malleable cast iron right there. Again, right click, material. If you're just going for a different look, you can just do something like that. And so now it's 1060 alloy. You can see that there. So that's easy to do to change the material. Let's see, also put this on a drawing sheet. I wanted to talk about that dimension thing again. So when you're dimensioning this angled surface, if you wanted to have an aligned dimension, click on the line. That'll give you that kind of a dimension. If you want to have the vertical dimension, then click on the endpoints. Now you can get the vertical dimension. Okay, so that's the difference. Clicking on the line or clicking on the endpoints. Slightly different than when you're building your model.